I'm Leor Phillips, host of This Must Be the Gig. We're a weekly podcast that documents everything about the world of live music, speaking with choreographers, costume and set designers, the people who run beloved venues and festivals, and, of course, speaking with musicians about that one gig that changed their lives. Get your peek behind the curtain at consequenceofsound.net, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Consequence Podcast Network.
And welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with the audio interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. I'd like to thank all the subscribers for checking us out. But I'll point out, if you haven't done the thing where you give the series the rating, wherever you're listening from right now, or you give the series a review, or just say hi in the comment box, take that opportunity. And if you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for? It's the best way to keep up with what all of your favorite artists are up to these days. So grab your preferred listening device, go to wherever you get your podcast from, wherever you're listening from right now, and hit that subscribe button. And we'll deliver multiple episodes, one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, straight to your eardrums. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest, Foy Vance. Foy released 2 records this year. Back in the summer, we got From Muscle Shoals, which was a sort of a soul-leaning album. And then recently, the more Americana-based To Memphis. Foy and I are going to be talking about both of those, how it all arrived when he found some old demos, and how they end up turning into these 2 different albums, and recording them here in America, in Muscle Shoals and in Memphis, with legendary players. In fact, he's playing with the Swampers back on the Muscle Shoals record. So we'll kind of hear about what that whole experience was like, just playing with all of these guys who can just do these amazing things at the drop of a hat in the studio. And I will say, there is so much magic on these records. It's incredible when you learn that, especially To Memphis, recorded in 2 days. We'll be hearing about some of the songs like I Was Born, Have Me Maria, Alice from Dallas, and why he decided to re-record the song Make It Rain. This is one that his buddy Ed Sheeran had put out a few years ago, but now Foy giving it a proper release on his own records. And what's also exciting is just because he put out 2 records this year doesn't mean he's done. He's already got another one planned for next year, maybe even more than that. It's a different mentality that he's in these days, and Foy's also going to tell us all about that as well. And the upcoming tour, a lot of early 2020 is going to be on tour with Anderson East. So let's jump into this and talk about the records From Muscle Shoals and To Memphis. It's Kyle Meredith with Foy Vance. Just announced the tour with Anderson East. You're going to be here in Louisville March 13th at the Paristown Music Hall. It's going to be great to have you back in town, especially, 1, because, we love both of you as artists, and 2, because you've got 2 fantastic records that you've released this year. I mean, you're spoiling us. Congratulations on this.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, that was an interesting process for sure. I set out to make 2 EPs, really, just to sort of tide me over while I was working on the next record, but they quickly turned into the albums,
And let's get the story on this too, because 2 albums, From Muscle Shoals, that's the soul record, and then the new one To Memphis, kind of is what we're calling the Americana record. I like that you've done the videos with Anderson East and Holly Williams, because it's about trying to figure out what in the world that term exactly means. I like watching you all kind of go through that whole process.
Yeah, and I never like to push too much the agenda, but to me, Americana comes from the melting pot of America, which were people from all around the world. So it's like Americana to me the net is thrown everywhere. If you think about it, that's everyone sort of congregated in America, and that's where the great melting pot came from. That's where all the styles were fused, and I think everyone's got a voice in that. It's even though it's called Americana. Yeah. We should just change it to Worldicana.
Well, it's interesting, especially that, coming from Ireland, because we did take a lot of our folk and country influences, from different places, but they come from Ireland.
Yeah, man, sure. Hillbillies. That's because, they all arrived, all the Ulster Scots, they arrived and it was too hot in the flatlands. They're like, screw this, we need to get somewhere cool. Let's go up in the mountains. They're all called William, hillbillies.
That's right. You've just taken it back is what you've done here. That's what this really is about.
Yeah, just reclaiming it, saying, hey, that's ours.
Well,
no, not really. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for that melting pot in America, music wouldn't be what it is today, and I'm so grateful that it is.
Well, it's a gorgeous record, and specifically talking about To Memphis too. You've written some great songs in your day, but it is amazing how every single song stands on its own on this record, and it's just so beautiful what you've done.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I guess that's the goal, isn't it, for us as songwriters, is to try and get the top and tail it and have no sort of anything but meat on the bone. Right. Anything more than meat in the bone's too much.
There's the story that goes along with this that as you're going into this, at least the way it's painted out there is you found some old demos, and I thought, what does that mean? You found some old demos, because these songs, I can't believe they were just sitting on a shelf somewhere as good as they are.
Some of them were actually on that record. Some of them were for many years. Just I guess it's like I write a lot, and I go through periods of writing a whole. There's like sort of windows of a couple of weeks or a month here and there where it's just sort of endless, and those songs stockpile because they can't all fit either on a record or even into a set, so a lot of them just disappear and I forget about them. And then I sort of got off tour in 2017, November 4th to be precise, 2017. I did my last gig for a while, 2 years I took off actually. And in that 2 years I was just kind of trying to look for ways to activate myself again and get writing again and get out of road mentality and get into home mentality and studio mentality. And one of the things I did was just sort of pragmatically going through old songs, just to put them in, compile them. Maybe I could send this song to that person and maybe this song could be rewritten or whatever. So I uncovered all these songs and just thought it would be, if I don't record them, they were going to sit in my hard drive, you know what I mean? Although there are some new songs in that record as well, I must say. There's at least sort of three of the songs in that album that are pretty new.
That's also interesting, too, because so it makes a little sense. You recorded To Memphis, as I read, in 2 days, right? 2 days?
Yeah.
You have to know those songs, or you're leaving it to this magical chance. Was it one or the other?
It was a little bit of both, I suppose. I mean, I went into this pretty prepared because, this is the first time I'd ever walked into a studio and not knowing anybody. Having trusted the producer to pick all the musicians. I mean, I spoke through everything that I wanted, instrumentation-wise, and the kind of players, and we saw eye to eye, and I just left it to him. I left it to Matt Rossbine to Memphis, and I left it to Ben Tanner for Muscle Shoals. So I wanted to come in prepared song-wise, so what I did was I demoed out all the songs. Here's where they start, here's where they finish. Some of that changed a little bit when we got in the studio, but more or less it was pretty much the same. So everyone kind of had a feel for it going in. But also all the musicians that he booked, that's what they do day in, day out, and it's not in any old word. They're cutting the sort of Tennessee scene, which is if you don't get it first go, you're not the guy for the gig.
Yeah, right. Right.
Next, there's somebody else that can. So these players were just the upper echelon of players, certainly sitting in the room with them and hearing the kind of conversation that was going on when we were playing. I mean, that they were just so in tune that that you could tell they eat, sleep, and breathe this world.
What was it like to work with some of the Swampers back on the Muscle Shoals sessions?
That was just, it was a mixture of a real trip at times, and then other times just so normal. It's like anything, isn't it? If you're going downstairs, you get scared of falling, hitting your face. There's all this anxiety building up in you. But if you actually fall and hit your face, then it's suddenly normal, and you're just dealing with the fact that that's happened. Kind of like that with the Swampers. It was like, holy shit, the Swampers. But then the second you're in there, it's just it's David Spooner doing what they do every day, going in the studio and playing on folks' records, and it gets normal pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But I did have a moment now when we were recording Pain Never Hurt Me Like Love, and I was looking out through the vocal booth window at Spooner Oldham, the same Spooner Oldham, sitting at the same Wurlitzer in the same room where he came up with that riff, I Never Loved a Man. It was such a split second, but it felt like the world stopped for a minute or two. It was like, wow, what a trip to be seeing that.
It's incredible that they can do this every single day with a new musician ever often. It could be plug and play for a lot of people, but there's still magic on this. It sounds like there's still their heart's in it, and it could so easily go that other way.
And it does so often with a lot of players. It really does. But those guys, I don't know what it is about them. I don't know if it's just that sort of Alabama attitude or what it is, but they're just loose and greasy as ever, and ready to get it. And they were a joy to work with, a real joy to work with. Spooner was every take he was doing something different. And if you said to him, I love what you did there, could you do that again? He'd be like, I don't know what it was, man. He just would follow his heart. Every take he would just sort of follow his nose, see where it ended up. And it was, they were a joy to to work with and talk to and get stories out of. That was the joy. And at the end of the day, everyone else would kind of clear off, and I'd be just, poking them for stories. And then what happened? And then what happened? And then what happened?
Let's hear about a few of the songs from the new one, To Memphis. Then you hit play, and this beautiful song called "I Was Born" come on, and it sounds like a Baptist hymn. These Baptist hymns that I grew up with around here in Kentucky. Was that on purpose? Did you mean to go specifically in that direction? Obviously, we know your history, with your dad and religion.
Yeah, well, it just sort of, that's the way it came out. And so I just followed it. You know what I mean? I didn't even know what the song was about when I was playing it like that. But yeah, I mean, I love those old, like, I'm talking old hymns.
Mm-hmm.
Not hymns of today. Jesus is my homeboy nonsense. Hymns that are 100% hell bent on just making enough money to buy a swimming pool.
Right.
It's like, no, that's not the music. That's not gospel music that I know or that I grew up with. The gospel music I grew up with cost somebody something. Yeah, it was real, and it was for no gain other than I mean, I always talk about this with sort of black spiritual music, like, I feel awful even talking about it, especially not being from America and you're in the thick of it over there, but we'll not go into it, because what happened, that entire group of people was just unspeakable, obviously. But the thing that always struck me was that all the gospel songs that were so full of hope and glory and a new place and a new, even in the depths of despair, they were singing about hope, and that's gospel music.
Right.
That's real, and anything that sort of feels like it's in that world, I can feel it.
Yeah, when you've got nothing else but hope. I think I'm just
Isn't it crazy?
Right.
I mean, it's probably very silly of me to tell such a weighty story in such a short snippet of a thing, but it's like, that's gospel music to me. You know what? That song, I Was Born, was literally just I was writing songs for my mum, that and Cradled in Arms, and they were just like documenting stories or whatever, and for it to come out in a kind of gospel way, I don't know, it just made sense. I didn't really think about it too much, if I'm being honest.
I'd actually put those two together, but thinking about with your mom in mind, Cradled in Arms and I Was Born. I mean, even in the titles, there's the obvious connection right there, and what a kind of a spot to go back to your creator.
Yeah. There she is.
Yeah. So I guess it's got to be spiritual in a way. I was going to ask Alice from Dallas. Is that a musical tip of the hat to the Towns Van Zandt, Dallas Alice?
No, it's not, actually. It's not. Embarrassingly, I don't even know that song. I'm going to have to check that out.
Well, it rhymes easy.
I wrote that, yeah, right. I wrote that years ago just for a bit of fun. A couple of friends of mine from Dallas, I wrote it and played it at a show down there just for a bit of crack. But I always kind of liked the song. That was one that I came across again and thought, I know it's a bit twee, a bit tongue in cheek or whatever, but I kind of like it.
That's an easy rhyme. I can see why not more people come up with that, actually. So.
I must say, I did enjoy trying to find other things that would fit in that world. The Alice from Dallas,
right?
And the Malice and the Callous and the. It's all a game, really. It's like sort of musical Sudoku.
Trying to make the puzzle pieces fit.
Yeah.
Similarly, Have Me Maria, obviously the Ave Maria little knock there at the end. How did that one come about?
You know what? I had that title for years and years, and I always wanted to do it in that sort of Roy Orbison, Blue Bayou type, feel. But I just, that one took a while to come. Actually, it came over a few years. Eventually, I don't know. I think I wrote that, finished it off maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. A bit more now. Can't remember. Yeah, it was one that sort of was just always there in the background. Every time I'd sit down with a guitar, the first line would come, but nothing else. And I just never really forced it. Then one day it came.
And I'll finish off the tell me about the songs. Why did you think to bring back Make It Rain?
Well, it had never made a record. I recorded it once properly in Abbey Road, but it was one of those sessions where my mate was working there as an assistant, and when if the session closed early, he could have his friends in the record. So I went and recorded it, and it's a great version of it. But I never released it, because at the time I can't remember. We had to pay full price. We were going to release it. It was hell a dollar, so I just didn't have the money at the time. And so it never really got a proper release. But it's getting sung all over the place. I mean, Ed covered it on that Sons of Anarchy show. H.E.R. She sings it at all her live shows, as far as I can tell. And I just thought, well, there's no representation of, an actual imprint on an album of this, so let's stick that on there. And that made it sound like it was really meaningful. The truth of the matter is I probably needed one more song, and that's an easy 3 chords. That's probably what happened. I'm just trying to make it sound cool and smart.
You made it sound cool. Very cool. It was a good story. I was there with you. In the, it doesn't sound like it, but kind of in the sort of comparison by name. If you ever wanted to do the live mashup with the Tom Waits "Make It Rain," I think you can do that just by listening to it.
Oh yeah, you gotta make it rain. That one.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but it's a completely different. But it's in 4/4. It's a different feel, and yeah, I guess you could mash that up.
Make anything work.
I don't know. I feel like touching Tom Waits. If you're going to touch a Tom Waits song and bring it out to people live, you need to know what you're doing. You know.
Right.
Great writer.
Did you say there's going to be another record in 2020?
Oh yeah, maybe a couple again. Actually, you know, that's where my head's at the minute. I don't think I'm going to tour as much. You know, I'm not as interested in being on the road as much as I used to be. You know, I think I've just kind of taken 2 years off and been at home with the family and realized that I like it. You know, and realized I like writing songs and I like being around my family and I like, you know, going to the studio every day, clocking in and out like a plumber. You know, Monday to Friday. It's good. It's good for me. It's good for my head. So planning to get at least one record out next year, and then I'd like to go back to the States and do another record with Matt Rossbank in the Tennessee 10 in Memphis. Wow. So maybe 2 albums, yeah, we'll see.
I'd be all for artists doing that more. I mean, I love going to shows and everything, but if it meant that I got more music from my favorite artists, stay home. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you know what, man? The thing is, it's ever since it, you know, became so industrialized, you know, it's like, get it out and rinse it for everything it's worth, and then get the next one out. And it sort of never used to be that. When the industry was just getting, you know, finding its feet and money was starting to really flow around, people were still just throwing out records, sometimes 4 a year. Right. I think Elton John put out 4 records one year, at the height of his, you know what I mean, his come up. Yeah. It was just a different mentality then, you know, and yeah, I like that mentality. And also, I'm not, you know, I have no one kind of breathing down my neck about getting the next number one single out of the gate. You know what I mean? They're not bothered if I take another 10 years to write an album or write 10 albums in the next year. You know, whatever you want, crack on. You're not important enough fight. That's how it works in the industry.
Well, we certainly enjoy it anyway. Certainly enjoy the music that you're putting out. So if it means a couple more records, I'm excited about that. That is really good news.
Definitely.
Yeah, especially if they're up to the caliber of these. And Foy, again, I'll say, you know, the 2 records From Muscle Shoals and now To Memphis, and bringing it all to town March 13th at Paristown Music Hall with Anderson East. Sir, thank you for the conversation. I look forward to seeing that show.
I'll look forward to seeing you. You must come up and make yourself known.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for today, too.
My pleasure, man. See you in Kentucky.
All right. Take care, man.
Sure. Bye.
And my thanks, Foy Vance. The latest record is called To Memphis. You can also find From Muscle Shoals out as well. And thanks to you for checking out the series. Again, if you're not already a subscriber, do that before you get out of here. We'll deliver a brand new episode straight to your podcast inbox every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Multiple interviews every single week. It's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. You can do that at iTunes and Apple Podcast or Podchaser, Stitcher, Acast, as well as Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your preferred podcast from. And if you're already a subscriber, again, thank you so much for being on board. Give the series a rating, leave a review, or just say hi in the comment box. Let me know what you liked about this episode. After that, head to WFPK.org, where I do a show Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, and bonus interviews. Again, that's WFPK.org. Consequence of Sound, they've got your music and film news. You can also find me on social media at Kyle Meredith. All of them just at Kyle Meredith. That does it for this episode. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.
It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org, from Louisville Public Media.
To give you pre-warning that at any stage in the next 20 minutes, my son might come and ask for juice.